Samsung's Unpacked event feels like it's coming a little bit earlier than usual this year, but Samsung has some big changes coming for the new S24. That's because they're saying it's the end of the smartphone camera era and the beginning of
the AI era. I don't tend to think of Samsung as an AI company, but with the S24 series, it seems like Galaxy AI is something we should be paying attention to. Now, there's a whole host of new AI-based features that are being processed on device on the S24 series of phones, as well as some camera updates coming and making use of generative AI to let you do edits. We checked all of them out at a hands-on event here in Las Vegas. Let's go take a closer look.
So before we get into talking about all the cool new AI features, let's talk about the basic specs and figures we're looking at for the new S24 family. So here on the left, we have the standard Galaxy S24, which has a 6.2-inch Full HD Plus screen. And then when we move over to the S24 Plus, which has a 6.7-inch Quad HD screen, you'll notice that it's kind of subtle, but they also do have slimmer bezels, kind of giving you a little bit more screen estate this year, which is always really nice to see. Now, both models have an 120 Hertz adaptive refresh rate, and then across the entire line, we're looking at a Qualcomm Snapdragon Gen 3 processor, at least in the US. Back to the S24, it's got 8 gigs of RAM and 128 or 256 gigs of storage. And then for the S24 Plus, we're looking at 12 gigs of RAM and either 256 or 512 gigs of storage. And there's gonna be a whole range of colors, plus a handful of exclusive models available on Samsung.com. One other little detail that I appreciate is Samsung has color matched the frame of the phone to the back color, so you get a much more uniform look, which is a small detail, but I do appreciate it. Now, one thing that I really want to mention is that on the S24 and the S24 Plus, we're actually getting slightly bigger batteries from last year. So on the S24, we're looking at a 4,000 milliamp hour battery, which is up 100 milliamp hours from last year. And then on the S24 Plus, we're looking at 4,900 milliamp hours, which is 200 more than the previous model. So really nice to see that same basic size, but even more battery to go and make that longevity last even better. The S24 and S24 Plus have the same basic camera arrangement. We're talking about a 50 megapixel main camera, and then we have a 10 megapixel telephoto camera with a 3x optical zoom, and there's also a 12 megapixel ultra wide camera. And once again, that's the same for both the S24 and the S24 Plus. Then over here, we have the flagship of the family, the S24 Ultra, which has a 6.8-inch QHD Plus display with that same 120 Hertz variable refresh rate. On the inside, once again, we have the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 with 12 gigs of RAM and either 256, 512, or 1 terabyte of storage. Flipping it around back, we're looking at a huge 200 megapixel main camera, and then there's a new 50 megapixel telephoto camera with a 5x optical zoom, which is slightly down from the 10x we got on last year's model. So here we are looking at the S24 Ultra because that's the most powerful camera of the new S24 family. Similar to previous models, you have your main camera and then it goes up to a 3x, 5x, and a 10x zoom. Unlike last year, it only has a 5x optical lens, but it's important to note that you do have that 10x option because Samsung says it goes up to a 10x optical quality zoom, which they're achieving by taking the S24 Ultra's 50 megapixel telephoto camera, and then they're doing pixel binning on top of that 5x optical zoom. Before I forget, one other really big design change for the S24 Ultra is that it has a new titanium frame. Now, interestingly, because the last model had an aluminum frame and titanium is actually heavier than aluminum, we're not actually seeing much of a change in weight, if any. So you are getting much increased durability, but the weight is staying about the same from year to year. Also, aside from the new titanium frame, the S24 Ultra is also getting a new Corning Gorilla armor back, which is something that the S24 and 24 Plus don't get. So it should be extremely durable, though I'm still not sure I want to throw it on the floor to really find that out. And of course, because this is the Ultra, you still get an embedded S Pen, which, like before, has its own little cubby hole down the bottom. Design is pretty much the same, but hey, it's nice to have, especially when you're going for that super premium flagship model. So now we're over here checking out the upgraded vision booster for the S24 Ultra. And as you can see, we have last year's model, the S23 Ultra on the left, and over on the right, we have the Galaxy S24 Ultra, which goes up to a peak brightness of 2600 nits. Now the really cool thing is that the vision booster will add another 300 nits of perceived brightness by adjusting things like contrast. So you should really be able to see things outdoors very, very clearly, even in super bright light. And finally, let's talk real quick about pricing. The standard Galaxy S24 is going to start at $800. The S24 Plus is going to start at $1,000. And then the S24 Ultra is going to start at $1,300, which is up $100 from last year. So still very expensive, but not a giant increase. Now that we got the basics out of the way, let's go check out some of those new AI features on the S24 family.
Given how big a year for AI 2023 has been, it makes sense that Samsung's here to launch a bunch of AI features. And a lot of them are launching first on the S24, starting with these 4 areas. First, we're going to look at the most fun of them all, in my opinion anyway, Chat Assist. What this will do is when you're using the keyboard in a chat app, for example, you can do a number of things. I'm going to just come up with some random sentence. So with Chat Assist, you will tap this icon up here with the little like stars at the bottom of a snippet, and you have 3 options. You can translate your message, you can edit the writing style, or check for spelling and grammar issues. So we're going to start with writing style. As you can see, once Galaxy AI has scanned your words, it can offer you some different versions. For example, the professional one basically writes a letter with a formal inquiry into the location of nearby delectable barbecue options. You have also casual, which is very similar to what I typed out. I love the social option, which is just utter ridiculousness. Basically, it's assuming this is a person who like lives and breathes social media and has hashtags everywhere and emojis. There's also polite, there's emojify, and you can see they're kind of similar, sure, but I've had other, shall we say, more risque conversations typed into this field, and the options that Galaxy AI has turned out for me have been not only hilarious, but also somewhat accurate. Now, you can do more things with this. For example, checking your spelling and grammar is fairly standard. And finally, you can translate it. There's about 13 languages available at the start. Another area where Samsung has infused some AI is in transcripts. So go to the voice recorder app in your app drawer. Right now, we've got a few pre-recorded options to look at. We're gonna do the English solar system and go to the options menu. And that's where you'll find a lot of the AI features. But first, we're going to transcribe to English. It'll take about 4 to 5 seconds, according to a Samsung executive. And if it understands that there were different people, it will identify and label them. You can also get a summary generated for you, which is very similar to what Google does on Pixel phones. And now you'll also be able to copy them over to Samsung Notes. Now that we're in the Samsung Notes app, it's also another area where the company has infused a whole bunch of new AI features. We're going to pull up a random note that's been written here by other people. And you can see this giant block of text is very unreadable. A lot of the AI features are hidden under this trio of stars icon over at the bottom. If we do auto format, though, it's where things are visually really interesting. So what Samsung's AI can do is add headers and bullets for you, but not just that. As you can see, it's already neatly organized, everything in bullets. Maybe not the most accurate, right? Because do we really need a bullet point for the solar system? But when you swipe through sideways, you'll see that there's a lot of different options. I really quite like how neatly this makes everything visually. You obviously have to go in and kind of maybe tidy it up yourself. Now, what you can do is either replace your existing words with this or copy it and then paste it somewhere else yourself, or just add to a new note. So now that we have this new note, we can go to the bottom with the AI menu again and summarize. Even though this already seems like a big summary, we're gonna summarize what's going on here. Again, I think it's cool that we lost the entire solar system introduction section, because do you really need a summary to show you the intro? Another thing I really like about all of these AI features that Samsung has added, for example, in the Notes app, when it highlights a large chunk of text and is scanning it and doing its AI smart thing, I just adore the kind of color gradient that comes up. It's this blue-green thing, and it's such a small thing, but it brings me so much joy. Now, the last area, for now anyway, that Samsung has been infusing AI is a feature called Circle to Search, and this is really something it's worked with Google to do. What that does is basically when you long press the area over the home button on the screen, and this will work whether you have just the gesture navigation or the 3-button style navigation, you can circle any part of your screen and have it immediately be searched. And you can scroll up to see more results. Now, of course, I did circle on something really random and useless, so we're not going to find any good results. So if we go into the gallery, we'll see some pictures of things that we should be trying to look up and get more useful results on. I'm going to try it out on this picture of citrus fruits. I'm going to circle and see if I can be told what this is. I discovered a lemon in my photo album. What's cool is here, this is basically Google's search generative experience, where you can not only get, sort of a pulled together set of information about what you circled, you can also ask a follow-up questions. And you don't have to enter sort of what it was before. It contextually understands what you're talking about. So how do you use these in cooking? And the search generative experience will find results for you. And when you're done with your results, you want to go back to the content that you were browsing. Say maybe you were on an Instagram story, for example. You just have to scroll down all the way to the top again. So we're going to test it on something else, like this picture on Engadget.com. We're going to see if Google Circle to Search knows what this grill is. It's a Weber. It is indeed a Weber. It's actually fairly accurate at identifying, even from an off angle, it's found the correct front-facing version. This is the first result. So this is actually going to work with anything that's on top of your screen as long as it's not privacy protected or DRM protected. As long as it's something you can take a screenshot of, basically, you'll be able to search.
So now we're here and we're going to try to test out the S24's live translating feature in a real call. Now, because the S24 isn't out yet, we are having to do kind of a simulated demo. So there are some Samsung folks on the other line. But remember, we're going to be using the phone itself to translate locally from English into Korean. It does support multiple languages, and it will auto-detect, but you can pre-select it if you happen to know what languages you'll be using in advance. We're going to hit the call assist and the live translate button. So you can see this is a quick little explainer to explain to both people on the call that it is going to be translating in real time using the S24. Hello, I can't find the taxi. Can you tell me where you are?
It's at number 4 at McDonald's.
Okay, great, thank you. Now moving on to the S24's new slow-mo feature, which applies to the entire range, because once again, we're using the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 and its AI capabilities to generate brand new frames from existing photos. You can take the phone and you can take old videos that have already been shot. You don't even need to shoot them on the S24 itself, and then you can use the AI to automatically generate frames. Now, the way it works is that it basically quadruples the original frame rate of the video, and then it creates new frames in between the original frames. What's really cool is that you can just be going along, looking at a clip, and then you can just press and hold, and then instantly, pretty much on the fly, the phone will start generating slow-mo whenever you start touching it. And another cool thing is that after you're done generating the slow-mo clip, you can go and hit the edit button, and you can see the exact part of the clip that you've created as new slow-mo footage. So it's very easy to tell what's new and then what's brand new AI generated. So it can turn, your everyday video of a pet into something that just feels a little bit more magical. Of course, there's more to the S24 photo skills than just slow-mo, because there's a new generative AI photo editor, and it works pretty similar to what we saw the Pixel 8 do back in the fall. So once again, we're using the power of AI to highlight subjects, you can move them around, and then AI will come in and fill that content in after the fact. You can also use it to delete objects as well. You can either use the stylus or your fingers if you don't have those, like you would on the S24 or 24 Plus. And then after that, we can hit the generate button, and then in just a second or two, or maybe 3, and then the S24 Ultra will use the AI to fill in the spaces that are left behind. Now, one little thing that I think is really cool that Samsung included is that there's a little view original button down at the bottom, so it becomes very easy to see the before and after results of your AI edited images. Now, if you look closely, it's not entirely perfect. There's a little spot around his ankle that could be better, and obviously your mileage may vary depending on the type of content or the specific subject that you're doing. But for something that's really simple and would take a lot more time in Photoshop to make it look perfect, it's pretty convincing. And as kind of a surprise coming from the Pixel Fold, where you kind of expect Google to do a good job with AI features, Samsung is kind of coming out of the gate with some really powerful editing features. And most importantly, they're really fast to use too. So now we're here looking at the Edit Suggest feature in the S24's Photo app. And if we check out this photo right here, it's not a bad picture, but obviously there's a couple issues with it. Most importantly, the shadow is kind of ruining this person's face, and if it's a portrait, that's definitely something you don't want. So if we tap the info button down here, it's going to analyze the image, and then you see automatic suggestions. So we can automatically erase the shadows, and it's going to sit there and it's going to use AI to generate the shadows, and that's a huge improvement just right there. But we can go even further because, hey, we've removed the shadows, but it's a portrait, so let's add a little blur to, really highlight the face. And we can hit background blur. And then it's going to use the AI again, and suddenly you get that nice, soft, creamy-ish bokeh in the back, so you really get that highlight on the person's face. Super simple, and you can even adjust the intensity down here. So you want a little bit or a lot, it's all up to you. So this is really cool because it's saving you time of what normally used to take a few minutes, maybe 5 minutes to do for every photo, and it condenses this down into 10, 15 seconds. That's really cool. I'm curious what the remaster is, so let's see what happens. Okay, and so that's really cool. It's showing us the before and the after, and so it's doing some, subtle color alterations. It's, making the tone, the skin tone look a little bit better, a little bit more vibrant. And so it's subtle, but it's a really nice effect. And then we can kind of see if we zoom in here. And it's even kind of changing a little bit of the texture on different things. And so that's really, really cool. And you can see it in real time. And it only took a couple seconds. So now that we've gotten a chance to check out the new S24 family, do you want to tell us some of your favorite features?
That AI feature called Chat Assist was wild. I was not expecting it. First of all, it's like ChatGPT in your phone and your messages. I thought it would be like, no, you sound too polite. But Samsung's version has all these options for you to choose from so you can sound the way you want rather than telling you, hey, you're too aggressive. I was actually most impressed by the fact that they worked. And they worked at a level that was seriously close to Google. How about you, Sam? What do you like?
Yeah, I think you kind of hit it on the head. You kind of expect Google to have, really good AI features, but now when I use the editing features in the S24's camera and the camera app, I was really blown away because it's really competitive.
These are all Samsung's own versions too.
And a lot of them are all happening locally on the device too, which is really impressive.
It's worth noting though that one of these features, which is Circle to Search, is still powered by Google, but everything else we saw today that was AI was Samsung's own software. I mean, I think 2024 is the year we see Samsung take on its title as AI company.
Which is a big change because historically they've been known for really great hardware, but now they're kind of adding to that with the S24.
What were you disappointed by though, Sam, with the S24s?
Yeah, I think we have one that's kind of the same, and then the other one is, where's Qi 2? We saw last year at CES 2023, the Qi 2 spec got approved, and I was really hoping to see something like MagSafe, because Qi 2 is developed by Apple, come to the Android ecosystem. And especially at CES 2024, I've seen so many Qi 2 chargers and Qi 2 accessories that it feels like Samsung, which is the biggest name among Android phones, it seems like a missed opportunity for them not to include that on the S24. And then the other thing, I think in terms of design, we both have a kind of similar complaint.
These phones, the S24 and the S24 Plus, they just look like iPhones. Not a bad thing per se, but not some of the, in the past I've come to expect more arresting looking phones from Samsung, and this year it's just their iPhone. And to be clear too, the S24 Ultra, it looks different. It doesn't look like an iPhone. It looks more like a Note. But, that Note device has looked the same in the last, 4 or 5 years? So we would love to see Samsung maybe take a few more design risks and give us something different.
So, as always, for more on the S24, stay tuned to Engadget. But of course, for more on everything about the Galaxy S24 and more from Samsung Unpacked, stay tuned to Engadget.com, and then come back to us on YouTube for more news, reviews, and videos.